Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here today because it is Booklist Thursday, and Booklist Thursday is something I do with Sarah over at Sarah's Nightstand. We come to you every Thursday with some sort of book thoughts, ideas, recommendations, something bookish related. So today is such an appropriate subject considering I am currently in the midst of winter in good old Wisconsin. We have probably 18 inches of snow packed on the ground, and it is maybe -8 at the moment. It is frigid, it is freezing. We had a blizzard over the weekend. We've had a couple of snow days already. So this is the perfect time to share with you my winter reads. So if you're trying to get in the mood of a wintry setting, or if you're like me and you like to submerge yourself into the atmosphere that you're already experiencing, insert me reading No Exit during a snowstorm a number of years ago, then these are the books for you. So have these on hand for your next snowstorm, if you are lucky enough like me to experience that wonderful thing. No, it's really great. I do really love snowstorms. I love the snow. My kids have already built a couple of snowmen. I have a dog who's part husky and loves to play outside. I'm perfectly okay with having the 4 seasons. Just -8 is a little much. So that's all right. So anyways, here we go. Winter reads. So they're all going to have a very like wintry atmospheric vibe to them. First one I want to talk about is one you could easily finish in a day. This was a really short book I picked up during the holidays. I actually just talked about it, but I couldn't believe how much I got completely immersed in the story and very invested in the characters. It's called Squall. It's by Sean Costello. This one takes place in Alaska, and we have our main characters. There's a couple different storylines going on. So one of them is a family of 3 expecting another baby anytime now. The husband is a bush pilot, basically. Like, he will go to very remote locations, either taking people and dropping them off there or providing some sort of service. And so one of the things he does is he helps kind of fix vacation homes during the winter when they're not being rented out. If something happens, he will go and take care of it. And he gets a call on this day that he needs to go to this remote cabin because there was a storm and a branch broke a window, basically. He's got to go fix it. And then we have this other storyline where we have, you know what, this may not be Alaska. I believe this might be Canada. I don't know, whatever. It's a cold setting. We have a couple who are not living the best life that they could. They are highly tied up in some drug deals and find themselves on the run from a really horrible drug lord. And so they decide to go hide out in this secluded cabin up in the wilderness where you can hardly even get there, but nobody really knows about, and they're just going to hide it out and wait for things to kind of blow over. And let's just say these two storylines connect, and there's a squall, there's a big storm that happens, and you're just taken on a ride to the point where I was like, how do you even A, think of this stuff, and B, get out of these situations? It's fantastic. I read it so fast. It was great. Next one I want to talk about is actually 2 books. They're both called The Children's Blizzard. There's a fiction and a nonfiction version. So David Laskin writes the nonfiction version. So this is the true account of what the other book, what the fiction book is written about. So I read both of them. I really enjoyed reading the nonfiction book first. It gives you the background and the reasons, this kind of science behind how things happened, and then the people that it impacted and what happened with our character. And then I read the fiction version by Melanie Benjamin, which is her take on this true event. So The Children's Blizzard, both of them follow a really crazy weather occurrence. It happened in January of 1888 in the Midwest, mainly the Dakota Territory. So in January, there was a long stretch of very, very cold weather. And then all of a sudden one day it is beautiful outside, and the kids are in school, and all the kids go to school that day, and it was kind of like I have now. It was really, really cold for a while, and then you just have the sun out and it's warm enough that maybe you don't need your full winter coat. So they didn't go to school necessarily dressed for super cold weather because it had turned so nice. And throughout the school day, a horrible blizzard was forming and basically hits this area right as school is letting out. So not only do you have children attempting to walk home in a blizzard, but they're not even dressed appropriately. And the fictional book by Melanie Benjamin follows two relatively new teachers, and kind of the decisions that they make during this situation. And then obviously the nonfiction book follows a number of accounts, and then how this blizzard got the weather phenomenon that happened that made it kind of form very quickly. And then the lack of warning kind of, today we get so many warnings. I mean, I was getting warnings on my phone for the blizzard we had last week, like days and days in advance. And this, the technology wasn't there. So very, very interesting book. And also there was an episode of Little House on the Prairie that was based on this event as well. So if you're like me and Little House on the Prairie geek, there you go. Next one I want to talk about is Shiver by Allie Reynolds. This is a kind of secluded thriller, and it basically follows this reunion of this group of people who had worked at this ski resort in the past when something tragic had happened. Now they're kind of all brought back together under varying pretenses to kind of face the truth. They are very hyper competitive people. There are some really crazy mind games involved with this one. And then you have this dangerous environment outside of it being a blizzard or cold and snowing and not the best atmosphere. So recommend that one as well. Then I finally do. Those books are all lent. Oh wait, I have one more book I want to talk about that I have lent out. And then the other ones I have. In an Instant by Susan Redfern. This one follows two families who have been really, really good friends for years and years and years and years. And they all kind of go off to this cabin together, and they're driving there during some not great weather, and they end up getting in an accident and kind of going over the side of the road, and it follows how they survive that. Again, another really captivating book that I was surprised by how much I fell in love with it. And then if you, again, like isolated thrillers, right, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. We have a couple who's kind of trying to reignite their marriage, trying to kind of come back together. They decide to rent this renovated church kind of in the middle of nowhere to try to, again, find each other again. And well, they're isolated, and it's called a thriller for a reason. The last one I want to talk about is Lone Wolf by Jodi Picoult. I was trying to figure out where exactly this takes place, and it doesn't necessarily say where, but I feel like I remember it being, I wanted to say Alaska, and I could completely be wrong because I've now thought 2 books were set in Alaska, but somewhere in the north where there's a pack of wolves that basically our main character, Ren, I believe Luke. No, what's his dad's name? Luke. Where Luke and his family have been, he's been basically studying wolves his entire life. So you learn a lot about wolves in this book, which I think is just absolutely fascinating. I love how Jodi inserts some sort of educational element in her books most of the time. And basically Luke and his daughter Kara are in a car accident, and so his son, who has kind of been estranged from him for a while, gets a phone call and basically has to go back home and face a father that didn't have a great relationship with him, try to help his sister, and then of course, as in true Jodi fashion, is faced with kind of some decisions that maybe push him outside of his comfort zone. So another great one that I think you should read. I still think about this book regularly, which I guess in my mind makes it a great book. So that's another recommendation for you. I do have a couple of books on my to be read pile that give off very wintry vibes. We have Cold People by Tom Rob Smith. I heard about this one on a podcast, and it's basically Earth is invaded somehow, and everyone who wishes to kind of continue surviving is forced, they have 30 days to move to Antarctica, and that's the only place they'll be allowed to like stay alive. Sounds cold. I have Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. Don't know much about this book other than it feels wintry. And then we have Five Strangers Five Total Strangers is the isolated thriller of 5 people who kind of get in a car it's more of like a rideshare type thing. And they end up being stranded and some stuff goes wrong. And then a nonfiction called Footsteps in the Snow. It's a shocking crime, 2 shattered families, coldest case in US history. It was a case that happened in 1957. Christmas was 3 weeks away and a 7-year-old went to play and she vanished. So yeah, we'll get to that one. I've been in a true crime kick lately, so maybe that'll happen sooner than later. But those are wintry reads that are to be read, you know, sometime. Anyways, if you have any good wintry read recommendations, leave them below. Otherwise, head over to Sarah's channel and see what she has for us today. Hopefully we can all stay a little warm. Right. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.